All right, full stack. 2, final exam, coding question. All right, so here's what it is. These will be updated obviously for the new Git repository as well as this demo as well. So really what we're doing is we're going to be resurrecting that checkout we used way back in full stack 1 that was static. So that's going to be the starter code. You'll be able to find that in the Git repository. It will look like this. If you remember, it doesn't do anything. It basically is just a static HTML file. 15 points to this question. So first, 15 marks. First stage I would recommend would be 4 marks. I didn't put that in there at this time, but what we need to do is we need to take this interface and we need to do a couple of things. We need to modify it in the following way. So on event load, we need to console log Windows loaded. So obviously we need to create an event handler for that window load event, console log that is loaded. Also add an event handler for the button click, and the button click is this place order, and that would be a function called handle order click. When you click that button, it will output to the console order is placed. At the same time, it'll actually grab all the information from these fields and then place it inside of an object and output that. So, I mean, obviously, you're going to need to know how to use some of the DOM manipulation. Sorry, the DOM web API, right? Things to do that. So what it'll look like is this. I've entered this information. I click, well, first of all, I'll refresh it. So if I refresh it, you can see my window loaded event fired. If I enter a credit card number, it really doesn't check anything right now. It's just going to grab whatever is in that field for this stage. When I click place order, it'll output that console log and it'll output that information in an object. Again, this is not really checking anything valid at this point. It'll output whatever is in these text fields. So that would be step 1. Step 2 would be implement a promise. So we're not going to call anything external. We're not going to submit the form. What we're going to do when we click the place order button is it's going to now try to process that order, but we're not going anywhere. We're staying within our JavaScript, and this is how we're going to do it. We're going to create a function called process transaction that will do the following. It will return a promise. With the return will be a success response. If the credit card is valid, it'll return the failure response if the credit card is invalid. And there's a hint in there. I already have a function in there called is CC valid that will do a simple check against the credit card information, the credit card validity, right? So what you need to do is you need to modify the handle order click. When you click the button, it's going to now call this new process transaction function, and that's going to try to figure out is a credit card valid or not. It'll return the promise. You need to handle it. If it's success, you output that order object as you did before. You're basically just outputting it. However, if there is the failure response, you just output a console error, credit card's invalid. So that's how that would work. So, right, so if we have this situation here, we click place order, and you'll see there, this is successful, right? However, if I have, more than 13 characters, it'll say credit card is invalid, right? So I'm perfectly fine if for whatever reason we have that situation where, if you can see there, I think it actually still outputted the order. That's fine. Well, really what I'm after is this error case, right? Probably if you could solve that, it'd be amazing. But really we need to track. I mean, the main difference is when the credit card is valid, we should not see the console error, right? We should just see transaction. Sorry, this was required. You output that above, you output the object regardless. So you output that before you call the process transaction function, right? So really the new piece to this stage is the transaction is successful, or if we add a bunch of other kind of characters to it, the order object will still be outputted, but you'll see this is the difference here, right? It's either going to be console log transaction is successful or credit card is invalid. So that would be number 2. So if you were to look at that code base, if you look at that starter code, you'll see inside of the JS there is this function here, which checks checks the bill if the credit card number given to it is valid. Simple checks, says if it's not null. Is it not a number? Is it greater than 13? So you don't need to try to break it. You just need to try to call this function. And then basically for this step, the main point is the promise. If you can get that far, obviously that's another 4 marks. The third part, if you can get there, is DOM traversal manipulation. So when the order is placed, so we're just going to modify how you handle the promise response from that process transaction function. On success now, we will show a DOM element in green. In failure, we will clear that out and show it in red. There's hints because the style's already there for you. You shouldn't have to worry about that. So what it looks like is this. Enter some information here. We're not really have validation on error or month at the moment. Once we click place order, credit card is invalid. Let's try to make it work. There it is, transaction successful. Right? If I have less than 13 characters or a bunch of things in there, that function should fail, and therefore it's invalid. So really, the part to this step is manipulating the DOM, creating a new element. In the starter code, there is, again, in the styles, you will find transaction success and transaction failure that can be added to that new element that you add to the DOM. All right, sorry, if you can't pretend you didn't see that. If you can get that far, the submission is this. Stage 1, 2, and 3 or 4 marks each, clean code and clarity. 3 marks for a total of 15 marks. I'm sure you could probably bang out number 1 quickly, and then you might be working on, depending on how quickly you've managed your time. Even if you got stage 1 and 2, that's 8 marks plus 3, you have 11 marks out of 5. Obviously, stage 3 will be the harder one for the full marks. That's it. I'll post this up, and any other questions, obviously message on Slack and all that. Good luck, guys. Cheers.